Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. BJ on Game Day back again for another week. You got Brent, and always you got Bogan. No Joshy as usual. Bogan, how are we, mate?
Yeah, all right, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Round 10 in review, round 11 preview. An absolutely massive week as it turned out to be. NRL Magic round. It was happening all over the park, buddy. What'd you make of it?
Um, oh, yeah. I was not having a good weekend till Ivan put in till well Ivan's boys Nathan Cleary put in his effort there to sort of get my score up there a bit.
Yes, it was a record-breaking weekend. Once again, another massive weekend of scores. Nathan Cleary, in particular, mate, he broke well, he's the new world record holder in Supercoach, as I like to call it, with a 225 on the Sunday evening to finish it off in Magic Round, which was a pretty controversial weekend considering the new directive from the NRL administration, Bogan, around high shots and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was a crazy round of footy, and there's been a bit of a consequence to that as well with team lists this week in absolutely disarray as well. But yeah, it was the Cleary show, mate. I must admit I only scored 12-18 for the week, and I chucked the C on Tommy Turbo on the Friday night, and I was feeling pretty good after that. But yeah, as it turned out, Nathan Cleary, ended up putting in a monster performance. 3 tries, set up about 1,000 tries, had his hand in everything else,
Oh,
and
mate, he was sitting on 120 points after 20 minutes.
yeah, it was massive. And they also had one disallowed that he would have had his fingers all over. So yeah, he had his fingerprints on everything. He had spiders on him. It was a massive performance, and crazy to think he's only 23 years old, and he's by far and away the best halfback, if not the best player in the game. So anyway, it was 12-18 for me. It was a massive plummet in the rankings, which was a bit disappointing, Bogues. I was sort of on the up of the last few weeks, slowly clawing my way back in. But yeah, as a result of my measly 12-18 on the weekend, I've dropped back to 9,235. So I've dropped 4,500 spots, which hurts because, as I said, I'd probably clawed my way back into that top 5,000 and was trying to build as the weeks went on. But it wasn't to be, unfortunately, mate. How'd you go?
Yeah, 12:23. So just pipped you, mate.
Well, you did well because
Oh no, I've downgraded. Fuck off.
I actually.
I downgraded 1209.
Oh, I did beat you. There you go. Well,
Yeah,
you had IPAP as captain who only scored 50 odd,
yeah,
and I captained Turbo, and you still nearly outscored me. So that goes to show how bad I'm
yeah.
going.
I did have one. I did have the Supercoach gods on my side for one. Is that I didn't have little Pap in my team because I thought he wasn't playing, and
Well, that turned out right for you.
yeah, it did because he had his head taken off,
And you had Nico Hines.
and I had Nico Hines still. So
Yeah,
Nico Hines, not a trap. Um,
yeah, absolutely. That was a massive performance from Nico as well. Another bloke that was just crazy that Sunday afternoon, really. And he had spiders on him, had his hand in everything. Had Nathan Cleary not gone 225, we would probably be talking about Nico Hines to start the show. But yeah, there was some big scores. It was a great weekend, I guess, of Supercoach. Plenty of points out there with the high scoring games. But yeah, plenty to talk about and plenty to sort of look at with team lists. Good evening, everyone in the chat. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us as always. If you're new, welcome to BG on Game Day. If you have been here before, welcome back, guys. Good to see a few familiar faces in the chat. Looking forward to getting into it this evening.
Now, before we start, Brent, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you. We had a bit of an argument this afternoon,
Ooh, I love his
and
tiff.
and it all started. It all started with this. Oh. So, uh, Adrianosaurus, Adrianosaurus, the best Supercoach pod on SoundCloud. Um, he done up a bit of a logo a couple of weeks ago, and I saw it, and I thought, oh, I could fix that up for him. And I fixed it up for him, sent it through to him, and he goes, oh, I don't know if I can use it, mate. My missus designed it for me. And I said, oh, fair enough. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. And then he DMs me back and he goes, oh, I just showed her and she loves it, so I'm going to run with it. Now, I showed this logo that's up on the screen to you, and what did you have to say about this, mate?
Well, I think we were talking about logos in general, but I said you've designed a better logo for Adrianosaurus than you have for our show.
Yeah, and then what did you say?
I can't recall. You tell me. There's a lot of things said.
There was a lot of fucking things said. That's what we're going to go into, because you didn't ask, you demanded. You said, "I want a new logo."
Yeah. And
I gotta say, mate, like for a start, no input from you or Josh on the original BJ on GameDay logo. And didn't have the creative genius, the creative inspiration that was Mrs. Adro to provide the foundation for the BJ on GameDay logo. So the first logo I thought up when you first demanded a logo was this one. Because, mate, the first thing I thought is this bloke, he is a bundle of sticks.
This is a stitch up. Here we go. Yeah, I'm listening.
Then, mate, what you sent me through then was you'd literally done a Google search of sports logos in red and blue, correct?
Yeah, because I had an idea in my head that I was trying to portray and share with you.
Well, it's funny you should say that, is share with me, because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the draft logo that Brent sent me through.
Hey,
for what the show should go towards.
I said a prototype, a mock, and I'm sure you can do something.
Here it is.
This is where I'm.
Here it is. Now, mate, I gotta say, at least your carer has put your name and your age down in the corner. So yeah, so this was the design of a logo that Brent sent through to me for what direction he thinks the show should go in.
Yeah.
And I know what you're thinking with that, Brent. I know you're thinking, I wish my mum could see that. I wish my mum could see that and put that up on the fridge. So don't worry, mate. Sent a text message earlier tonight off to Brent's mum.
Oh God. Right. This is the first time I'm seeing this too. Lovely. Absolutely beautiful. Mum, if you're watching, how you going? I don't know if she'll be watching, but shout out to Mum.
Now, I don't like this design for a logo. Obviously yours. Now, I have judged some up, and want the opinions of the chat. I don't like, because here's the thing, right? So here's the logo I've done up based on Brent's design. But I don't like the whole blue-red silhouette aesthetic, because I just feel that every fucking amateur sports fucking podcast or league tries to rip off the Major League fucking baseball format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in my head, it was very much, I thought, oh, it'd be cool in like an NBA style, in a league style, because I don't think I'd seen anything like that in Australia in terms of rugby league sort of logos, and I thought it would be it would stand out, it would be recognisable, and I just thought it was a cool idea. But we have differing opinions on that. But I'm more than happy to let the chat get us to a decision point tonight, folks.
So someone has Adro has pointed out in the chat that it just happens to be the same colours as the football team that you support, mate.
Yeah, and I will again say that I knew that this was going to be what I was accused of, but there was definitely nothing in it. It just is a coincidence. It's a nice coincidence, but it is what it is.
Now, there is some alternates as well, so it's mostly blue instead of mostly red.
Yeah.
And, of course, in the green and gold.
Well, look, I like that. There was no alternatives provided to me, I just, being the ideas man that I am and you the, architectural specialist that you are, I just threw some ideas down on paper and thought I'd see what you could come up with, and I don't mind that either. I don't mind the green and gold.
Now, Josh King is in the
He's
chat.
In the chat.
And he's like, do I need to be involved here? I think you do, Josh. Because here's the thing. Josh King, he's texted me earlier in the year, and with sorrow, obviously, in his heart, he said, I don't know if I can do much of the show this year.
No fucking shit.
Yeah. And I said, well, it's your show, and I don't want to take over. It's you and Brent started the show, and he goes, no, mate, no. He goes, with the work you've put in over the past couple of years, it's just as much your show as it is mine and Brent. And he's basically like Gran Torino. He's chucked me the keys to the car, and he's spouted a few racist Asian epitaphs and told me to go with it. But I've held back. And here it is, the dictator himself, Brent Hampton, saying that no, I want the new logo to be in Knights colours.
Look, I stand by what I said. I never said Knights colours, and I knew you were going to say that, and I told you.
Did you Google NBA style logo, or did you Google sports logos in blue and red?
Yeah, I think I googled sports logos in blue and red to help convey the idea, and I sent that to you. I'm not denying it. But yeah, like you said, and you can say it to me. It is my show, and you can get fucked. So you'll be lucky to even be here next week if you keep it up. I'll take your logo and I'll go as well. I took a quick photo with the phone, and I'll make sure we can use it next week.
Well, that being said, there may not be a show next week because I got family visiting, but we'll go into that later.
Anyway,
that being said, next show we will have a range of logos
for people. Put it to vote.
Yep. So it'll include your blue and red logos. I'll do the green and gold one up as well.
I like the green and gold. I'm not saying I don't. I like that.
And I'll probably come up with some spins on the original BJ and GameDay design as well.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the original. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I just thought, I was sitting there thinking.
That's not what you were saying this afternoon, mate.
I said it's pretty plain, and you can't even read the GameDay on the front. I just said it could use a bit of a zhuzh up, bit of a change. So anyway, that sounds good, Bugs. I like what you've done. As always, you're a design genius. You've come back with my mock idea, which was pretty good, to be fair. And look what you've been able to do. I need to absolute masterpiece.
Just so people know, there's Brent's original idea. I might make that the Twitter profile pic for the week. Actually,
I like that. Actually, we could do something with that. Get some shirts made or something. Anyway, look, good work, Bogues. I apologise. Next time I'll bring it to the board for consultation before I start dictating what we're doing. I thought I just employed you as a design sort of specialist, but obviously not. So if you got shares in the company, I'll bring you to the table, buddy. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm still waiting for those profits to come in, mate.
Yeah, well, get me as well. Anyway, all right, we're done here. We finished. You got me all stuff out of the way.
Yeah, for now.
Right, good stuff.
Let's go into the results from the Magic round.
And shout out, yes, I do love the Adrianosaurus logo.
Oh,
That wasn't the reason that I actually wanted us to have a new logo,
oh,
though. I had been thinking about it, but I absolutely love his as well. It's a great logo.
oh, can I say too? Shout out to Adrianosaurus. He put up a pod last night, and he said, "I got rid of my old pod because I'd had 1,000 beers and I was a bit sweary and stuff like that." And he goes, I didn't think it was professional or appropriate to leave it up, so I re-recorded it. And I said, Adri, you got to send me that first one you recorded. And I was privileged enough that Adro sent me a link to the first one he recorded, and it's rolled gold. It's amazing how fucking pissed Adro was,
It's
both
fucking funny, man.
both from alcohol and from anger. It was an amazing podcast, and not to betray the trust, I was tempted to take clips from it to play tonight, but I didn't.
He's a comedic genius. I'll tell you that
Oh,
much. He had me
mate,
laughing within the first minute and a half of that one. I was fucking in tears. But
everyone,
Ados, put it back out, brother. The public need to hear it.
yeah. The lost episode. It even goes with the Jurassic
fitting.
Park.
It's fitting.
Yep. But amazing work there by Adro.
Yeah, absolutely. Get it back out there, Ados. Give the people what they want.
Um,
All right. Jumping into the footy, eh?
yep.
The Magic Round started on the Friday night, and goodness
Whoop.
gracious
Was that the?
me.
Yep. That's the results. Yep.
It was my boy, absolute shambles once again, getting absolutely rolled by the Tigers 36-18. I don't even know how he scored 3 tries, if I'm honest. Adam Dewey top scored with 114, was absolutely massive. Got named at centre, Bogan. I was pretty keen to bring him in last week, but the fact that he got named at centre put me completely off him. And he was still able to produce massively. I think he went up about nearly 100 grand this week as a result of that. And anyone that had him would be absolutely loving that. And anyone that was going to buy him, I think it was a little bit hard pressed bringing him in playing at centre. But he absolutely ran amok out on that right edge, made Bradman Best look extremely ordinary. But Newcastle in general were very ordinary. They ran in quite a few tries pretty quickly, and really put us to the sword. I think Dane Laurie probably disappointing for a few, considering the amount of points the Tigers put on, 37 points. Noffo, 54 with a try. But apart from that, we had Sean Bloor as well, Bogues. He sort of went under the radar a little bit, I reckon. He was sort of looking like going to be one of those cheapies that everyone was going to start the year with.
And then he got injured.
Then he got injured, obviously, and the weekend was his first game, so obviously not a good score from him. The minutes for Blory weren't good, obviously just making his return, only played 23 minutes. But I think his impact was good when he was on the field. You sort of know he's on the field. He's a big boy. He runs hard. So keep your eye on Blory. Obviously not a good score, but for a guy that's 200k, it probably doesn't matter. Should play that round 13 bye and might be a nice little transition from someone in the next couple of weeks. If you've got a Curran you don't want to hold on to or something like that, you could maybe look at him. But at the moment, he's a little bit of an AE nightmare, but I can only assume his minutes are going to increase. We also didn't see Sinkin in this one. Little ended up playing the game, starting the game at hooker. Madden came off the bench as well, so a bit of an AE nightmare for myself there as well, Bogues. I have got Madden in the halves there, but not sure he's been named off the bench again this week, so a bit of a disaster. But Little played 45 minutes. 68 minutes rather. So Little might be back, which is interesting at just under 400k. On the Newcastle side on the field, it was a debacle, not just footy-wise, but probably Supercoach-wise. Barnett just continues to be used in an absolutely insane way. I don't know what AOB is thinking. 47 minutes, a couple more than last week, but just not kicking. Wasn't kicking the goals with Ponga out as well, even though Tex Hoy couldn't hit the side of a bus. Jaden Brayley was okay once again. I think he scored... Did Brails score a try on the weekend? I think Brails did score a try, so that probably helped his score a little bit, to be honest, saved him a little bit. And Frizzell with some junk off Connor Watson right at the end there, bumped Connor and Frizzell up. So, that last try that we got right on full time sort of gave us a bit more of a flattering scoreline, but it was not pretty out there for us, unfortunately. Yes, Shilsey, bloody Dewey doesn't pass too much either, which is great if you own him. Second game on the Friday night, it was It was the Sea Eagles giving an absolutely massive sausage to the Broncos, and this was probably the one where we realised this rule set was going to be a big impact for the weekend. More so, I think there was a couple sin bins in the Newey game, but this was the one where Gamble went, and also Ricky went shortly after that. So Brisbane were left with 11 men on the field, and that really just opened up the game a whole heap. You can't really expect a team to compete for too much, for too long, considering you got 11 players on the park to 13, especially you guys like Tommy Turbo, who produced once again with 119, scored a double, had his hand set up Gerbo as well, was just creating points all over the park, to be honest. Sabi and Garrett continue to benefit from that, especially Saab with 100 there. So anyone that held tight on Saab would be absolutely loving that. He also had a try assist in that, and Ruben Garrett, massive 92, considering he didn't have a try in there, though. That's pretty amazing. Kicked 36 points worth of goals, though. Schuster wasn't bad. He actually got sin bin pretty much one of the last plays of the game, which is sort of disappointing for owners, but he was pretty good. They did lose Kieran Foran relatively early, Bogues, and Schuster slipped into 5'8", which I thought he looked good. He's got I don't know, for a young bloke he looks really good, but he's got those weird sort of things in his game where he just does something a little bit loose. He's always got this no-look pass or this this banana kick or something that might not be on at the time, but yeah, really, really exciting young bloke, and I'm sure they'll sort of iron that out of him over his career. But he looks awesome. Hasn't been named to start at 5'8" this week. Held down the edge spot, so we'll see what happens there. Obviously with Sirenen still out. But yeah, Cherry Evans was big, 100 there for him. Marty Tapau's been on an absolute tear as well, Bogues. I reckon he's gone under the radar coming off the bench, but big Marty's absolutely killing it. I know he's had some attacking stats in the last few weeks as well, but he is absolutely killing it, Bogues, in the minutes that he's getting. Still not playing huge minutes. Like, he played 57 on the weekend, but in his last sort of month or so has been pretty good. Brisbane side of the park, Sarko was the top scorer, sort of scored a nice individual try there for them. Payne Haas was pretty ordinary, Bogues, didn't do too much, so he was on, he was in a bit of form the last couple of weeks as well, so pumping out some really good scores, but in 60 minutes, only 49 points in base. I guess they spent a lot of time sort of under the posts in this one, not doing a whole heap of tackling and much footy as well, so yeah, sort of a lot there left out in the park. Where to here from Brisbane? They've dropped their halves again. I believe Milford's been dropped this week. I believe Gamble. I don't know if Gamble's retained the spot. We'll have to have a look later. But yeah, they're in absolutely all sorts, Brisbane. Gamble's held the spot, but Albert Kelly will come in for Milford. But yeah, Gamble hurt a few as well, Bogues. There was a lot of people jumping on him. I did consider going Madden to Gamble, and now Gamble has done that. He still saw he would have seen a nice little rise still. What'd he go? 39k, but he now has a break even of 20. So, I mean, it's not terrible, but he probably would have been in for a couple of nice cash rises had he even bumped out a 50 or a 60 in that game. So that one sort of hurt people as well. But not much else doing out there, Bogues, on the Brisbane side of the park. A few questions to be asked, another pumping for them.
Yeah, same fucking questions. Same fucking questions that they've been asking about the Broncos all year, though. So
yeah, so first game on Saturday, it was a close one. The Dogs ended up getting pretty lucky. The Raiders. Well, not lucky, but the Raiders actually lost Whiten. And then Papali got sent as well at one point. So, again, the new rule interpretation absolutely caused havoc in this one. And I'll be honest, I watched a bit of this one and I thought the Dogs were going to get them. They sort of got the momentum and got ahead. And I thought, well, the Raiders are in trouble here. But they sort of pulled it together well, considering they were down a man for the rest of the game and missed Whiten for a 10-minute period. And Yeah, they came home strong, and it was a big win for the Raiders. They really needed that. Caleb Aikens top scored for the Raiders, 87. I don't know how relevant he is. Probably not too many people on him. Dylan Watini-Zelezniak top scored for the Dogs, 76. I will say Luke Thompson's on a bit of a tear as well. He's been absolutely massive. I don't think he's scored under 50 since he returned, but generally scoring 60 plus, and it's all in base. So his minutes have sort of increased since he started in round 5, since he come back in round 5.
So what's the advice there with Luke Thompson? You put him in your team, but don't let him near your misses, or?
Oh, that's a different one. I think Elliott's the one you're going to keep on.
Elliott's.
So I have to apologise for Lukey there.
I don't know.
Maybe you can't keep him near misses as well. Who knows? But anyone at the Dogs. But yeah, obviously the Dogs don't play that round 13 fixture. They have the bye in round 13. And same with the Raiders. So it does make it a little bit hard to pick up these guys. But 500k, Thompson's like pumping out some really good scores all in base. Obviously Josh Jackson's missing. So I don't know what will happen once Jackson returns, but there's lots of work to be done in the middle there for the Dogs, and I can't see him shying away from that anytime soon.
What's your thoughts on Avarillo? I noticed a lot of people had Avarillo in their teams early on in the season, but he hasn't seemed to have done shit.
I think he's just from a footy perspective, he looks to be a good young player. I don't know if the halves is really where he is. I don't know if he's a 5'8" or a 7 as he played on the weekend. I don't know if I really just don't know what his best position is. I don't know if he should be more of a fullback for them. Maybe with, Burton coming, they might have a Flanagan-Burton combo with Avarillo at 1. I'm not entirely sure. I think he's really good, entertaining to watch, and can create something out of nothing. Supercoach-wise, it's a bit hard to touch him because he doesn't have much base in him. Obviously there's not much happening in that Dog side attacking-wise. It's not like there's a heap of options running off him or a great fullback chiming in off him doing too much. But I think he's a player to watch in the years to come. If the Dogs are going to rebuild, they're going to rebuild around sort of guys like this. And as I said, Burton and maybe Flano, if we can find something as well. But, Supercoach is a bit ugly. Yeah, he's not exactly too attractive. I mean, he's only made, 20k start on his starting price on the start of the year, and he started at 330. It's nice that you can slide him into 5'8" and centre wing, but yeah, he's just you could pump out a sub 20, or you could go 40 with a try. It's sort of, not this year anyway. But yeah, there's some solid scores there for the top half of the Dogs team there, a few 50 pluses, which is probably pretty good. Curtis Scott had a pretty good game, as much as I rag on him probably being one of the worst defensive centres in the comp. He does run the ball really well. He beats a heap of tackles, scored a pretty big try for them as well. Harawira near our CHN was massive as well. He scored a try. There was plenty of people that jumped on him as a bit of a pod to Curran, or just a bit of a downgrade option, but he looks really good, and I think he's still a good buy, old CHN. Obviously a bit awkward that they don't play round 13. They do have the bye, the Raiders, but I think he's nice. He played 80 minutes, 50 points in base, building nicely. Tommy Starling keeps reducing. It's probably a bit hard to own Tommy in Classic just because of his starting price, but Hodgson out for the week again, and I think they brought Hodgson on at one point and Starling stayed out there, but it was probably more to do with the fact that Parley got injured as well. But I think Tommy Starling's going to be a big one for sort of next year, Bogues, in the Supercoach ranks. Let's hope he doesn't finish the year too big. And he won't be too expensive because, I'm a big fan of Tommy Starling, and he's a really super coach.
So am I. He's future superstar, Tom Starling.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bailey Simonson stunk it up, bouncing back from 79 with a 16, so he'll be nice and ripe to sell. A 2 break even this week at 269k. Look to get him out of your team before round 13, and hopefully, if you got some jewels, maybe you can go to a Blore, or you can bring us to Wally or whoever. I don't know exactly who it'll be at this point. But, look to jump off the Simo train in the next couple of weeks for sure, because he is probably going to peak. Second game on the Saturday. I didn't actually catch this one, Bogues, but your boys got the job done over the Sharks. I think I actually did watch a little bit of this one, I lie. I caught sort of more the back end of it, but I think... They came back at you, Cronulla. You started he's ran away early, and then Cronulla fought back, and it looked like they must have gained, regained a bit of momentum off his Bogues.
Yeah, I'm not I'm not very confident in the Rabbitohs at the moment. Got Reynolds and Latrell back this week. Hopefully that will boost the things up a bit. But this past few weeks have been fucking awful. So to be a Rabbitoh supporter, and even getting the win. I tell you what, Rabbitoh should have been beating the current Sharkies by a lot more than that.
Yeah, look, obviously Latrell's a big out for them. I know Cody Walker's been doing a job, but he doesn't do what Latrell can do. Benji was great as well. I've got my kid dying in the background. But yeah, obviously Latrell back. Reynolds did play on the weekend, but they get that usual spine back. They missed Cam Murray as well. Jeez, they missed Cam Murray as well pretty badly in the middle as well, but. Yeah, they sort of have a big game this weekend against Penrith. It'll be really interesting to see where they're at. But Latrell is a big in, and looking forward to that game. That's going to be absolutely cracking game on. I think it's Sunday afternoon. There's a couple of good fixtures on the Sunday. But in this one, Arrow scored a late try, top scored with 84. Walker scored a double, 81. I reckon his second try was absolute garbage. How they don't call Totola held is beyond me, and 3 blokes on him, and it was dodgy. Anyway, bloody Walker owners would have been loving that one. Colin Matangi had another great game. He looks like an absolute superstar of the future and was always touted as one, but absolutely found a home out on the edge out there. Big Colin Matangi. Cookie, 64, not terrible. I think he was up a little bit higher and lost something on down dates, revisions, Bogues, but hasn't been awesome Supercoach wise, but just steers him around the park awesome. Like I said, he's not necessarily Supercoach killing it this year, but does heaps for that team. Just from a footy perspective, still going really good. On the Sharky side of the field, Kennedy bounced back from, I think, the 4 last week. Already scored. I don't know. There's probably not many guys that you have in your classic team from the Sharkies team, if I'm honest. Obviously, Sean Johnson, I think, was a late exclusion as well from this game, Bogues. So Moylan chimed in there. I think Moylan, when I watched, looked sort of good as well.
Do you reckon he's done?
Moylan?
No.
For SJ?
Yeah.
Nah, I think he's still got plenty to offer. He's just obviously got a couple of niggles there. He's not quite right. I don't know, Bogues. He could be the sort of thing, if he doesn't get himself right this year, who knows, he might decide to hang the boots up. And obviously something there not quite right. And it is always an issue with SJ in the recent years. He does those hammies, or he has something wrong, like he's done his Achilles just recently, or an ankle or something like that. And it can tweak, and it can be reoccurring for him in particular. You think Tommy Turbo's bad, SJ's probably just as bad. So it'll be interesting to see sort of what happens maybe. Bogues, he's 30, 31 years old. I'm not entirely sure, but I still think SJ's got plenty to offer if he can get his body right, but that's probably a big if, Bogues. But yeah, that's probably about it. Wilton didn't go on the park, so anyone that had him, you'd be happy about that because he doesn't lose any cash because he didn't actually get out on the field. And Andrew Fafita got a game, 21 points there. Didn't what's doing.
Oh, you got to run.
You got to run. And on what was the next game, folks? Where are we? It was the Roosters up against the Cows on Saturday night to finish it all off.
Yep.
On the Saturday, Roosters got away in the end. Probably, it was a closer game than what the scoreline probably reflected. Again, I didn't watch all this game, but Teddy bounced back, folks. Absolutely massive for anyone that stuck true with Teddy, and I think there was plenty of them. But yeah, had his hand in a couple of tries, a heap of tackle busts, plenty of line break assists for him, so 3 or 4 line break assists for old Teddy. He was massive. Angus Crichton crossed for a double with 119. Tupu crossed for a double as well with 101 for the Chooks. Lockie Lamb's probably had his best game Supercoach-wise for the Chooks with an 81. Victor Radley was good. So, yeah, plenty of points there. Sammy Walker wasn't too bad. Obviously, it was pretty clouded with doubt as to whether he'd play or not. But, ended up playing. I think he scored early. Probably People were hoping he might get a few more points out there, but 63 will take that. Drinkwater was the best for the Cows. He also scored a double and had his hand in one, so that was pretty big against the Chooks. Reece Robson obviously scoring pretty well there. Jarvid Bowen, who's just sort of popped up, Bogan. I think he's a bottom dollar sheet, like 180 odd K centre wing. So I don't know what his job security is like, but you're not going to get those scores out of him.
I like him
every
though.
week.
He's it's a footy player story. Gets dropped from the Cowboys, goes back to local footy and plays his way back in for one-off contracts. Hope he goes well.
Just trying to think who's missing from their team as to why he's there. Maybe he's been named again this week. The Hammer, I think Hammer Fado. So yeah, look, we'll see what happens. Maybe have a look on him for next week. But obviously, even the Cows don't play round 13. But 68 with a try, you take away the 30 points for the try basically, and that's sort of what you'll get out of him. But I don't know, security might be a bit of an issue with him as well. That was actually his second game, so he's actually in minus 37 break even. You're actually going to get the rise on him, but his base hasn't been bad. 31 and 29, boys. Calling it a trap. So anyway, I had Tupanua, which hurt. I thought he was a massive pod this week up against the Cows. Ended up getting sin binned and 27 points. And Takiaho, Bogues. I jumped off Takiaho a few weeks ago just because I wasn't too keen on him with that rib injury. But 35 minutes on the weekend, 24 points in base. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but he's now down to 445k with an 80-odd break even. So he's lost the goal kicking as well, Bogues, which is pretty big. Sam Walker and Adam Kieran look to be sharing the kicking there, and Walker's bloody couldn't hit the side of a bus either, I don't reckon. But yeah, that was pretty interesting, Bogues. I'm not sure what to make of Takiaho now. Whether they're just sort of saving him. Maybe that rib's a bit more of a concern, and we might need to see some bigger minutes out of Takiaho before we jump on him. But he played 63 minutes the week before, but only pumped out 51 in base. So maybe he's just carrying that rib and they're managing him a little bit. The other one to mention from that one, who was a big in going into the week, was Tamalolo. So Tamalolo played 71 minutes the week before against the Bronx, 62 in base, scored a try and scored 100. He actually played 64 minutes on the weekend, only had 45 in base. So I think that's good signs. Minutes are up again for Lolo. So, he's reasonably cheap at 580k. I know that the Cows don't play the bye, but Tamalolo is tempting at 580k, Bogues, I must admit, because we all know what he's capable of, and if he's going to be getting upwards of 60 minutes, which I don't know who's had a word to Todd Payton or what's doing about managing his minutes, but if he's playing 65 minutes, Lolo's going to be must-have. And the first game on the Sunday, it was Para that absolutely put it to the Eels. I think the Warriors again bounced back and tried to make a bit of a game of it, but the Eels were just too good in the end. Regan Campbell-Gillard had a first-half double with a 94 there. Moses had a blinder. I reckon I've said it ever since the game they played against Canberra, with Dylan Barron out, he had an absolute blinder, and it looked like he got some confidence out of that game, and he hasn't taken a backward step since. I reckon ever since that Canberra game, he's gone big. And just looking at his stats now, so that Canberra game, he went 87, and then the 4 games subsequent to that, he's gone 79, 51, 70, 91. So confidence high for Moses. He looks really good. Obviously, Dylan Brown was out, so Jacob Arthur debuted. I think he looked brilliant. I think he looks like a kid for the future. I don't know what they do there with Dylan Brown there, because if I was, I think Dylan Brown hasn't been overly impressive to start the year, Bogues. I know he's a great young talent, but and I'm one of his biggest fans, but he has not done much to start the year, if I'm honest. So I don't think he's going to take Brown's spot, but he looks like a great little footballer. Young Jacob Arthur scored a try as well. Brad's son there. Paulo doing my head in, 47 points after having an absolute blinder the week before. So I am off Paulo now. He's just, I can't do it. I can't. It's breaking my heart. Old Paulo, 49 points. Put the offload away again. I just think you can't put up with the mid-40s from the big man. So I'll probably look to shift him on this week. I brought in a Cyber Parley, so you can all thank me for breaking him. It looked like he spent a bit of time in the middle as well, Bo. Someone, I think Lane came on and maybe took that edge spot, and he might have went in the middle. 59 minutes for him, 44 in base, no attacking stats really. So,
Adro pointed out something obvious. Yeah, I do have a lot of Parramatta players in my fucking team, and I said last week that I need to get rid of some, and but I'm sort of holding them until after the bye round. So that's why.
fair tactic. Yeah, look, there's heaps of options in that Parasite. Obviously, Matto was big, Bogues. He was a big buy for the week.
Sometimes I don't understand the scoring, mate. Because look at that score. You had an Eels team that dominated the Warriors, but then you look at the total points scores, and the Warriors team scored 100 points more than them. How the fuck does that happen?
Maybe a bit more base out there for the Warriors, but Reece Walsh on that was massive coming off the bench. The kid is an absolute freak. But yeah, you're right. It's quite funny, isn't it? I guess, yeah, like I said, might be doing a bit more defending for some of those middle forwards. They scored obviously 3 tries still, but whether they're getting a few line breaks and then not converting them. Someone that likes to offload. I couldn't tell you. I'm just sort of talking shit at the moment, but yeah. Harris was pretty solid with a 66. Curran, obviously, I think it was the hyperextension of the elbow. Ended up getting named to come off the bench. Did come off the bench, scored a try, but came on early because Wade Egan suffered a HIA. So it was an absolute debacle. If you had Curran and then didn't play him because you saw he was coming off the bench, you were spewing, and then you weren't spewing, but still managed to pump out a 64, so you'll take that. On the Eels side of the park, I agree with the boys in the chat. Fergo is absolutely no-go now. Wanga Blake is back. I've got Fergo. I don't think he got the ball once off a backline play. If he did, it was only once. All his points have just kind of probably come from his base. And the one time he did have an opportunity to score a try, he fucking blew it. I don't know if you saw that one, Bogues.
No.
All he had to do was put the ball down and he fucking dropped it out the back of his arm. He got tackled at the same time, but that's twice in 2 weeks he's bombed a try and absolutely killing me as a Fergo owner. The week before with the one short, and then this week with the one that fucking out the back of the hand. Gutho wasn't overly impressive, mate, as a guy that owns Gutho that went a bit of a pod when Teddy and that went down. He left some points out there, which was a bit disappointing, but they were sort of they didn't really need him.
Speaking of Ado's fucking blue podcast, he didn't have kind words for Gutho.
Yeah, well, like I said, he wasn't amazing. I mean, I jumped on him the week he scored 140 and chucked him on as captain, so I got something out of him at least. But yeah, anyone that brought him in the last couple of weeks would be probably a little bit dark because I don't know. I think they just had so many options and they were doing it all over the park. I didn't really need him this time, but when they need him, that go-to is down the left and connecting with Sivo out there. So, but yeah, otherwise nothing crazy. Too crazy, really. Like I said, Reece Walsh is just an absolute freak, Bogan. He sort of built the comeback for them. The kid looks electric, scored a try, just makes such a difference for their side. So it'll be interesting to see what they do for the rest of the year, whether he comes off the bench and they chuck a bit RTS somewhere else and put him at fullback, or they take Egan off and shift Nicarima or Chanel Harris-Tavita into hooker so he can play in the halves, but they've got to get him out on the park, so... yes, Ados, he did actually roll an ankle early. I had my heart in my mouth with Gutho. I think his first hit up of the game, he come out of it a bit ginger, but he ended up playing it out. So maybe that was the reason why he was a bit quiet. But anyway, second game on the Sunday was the Storm giving it to the Dragons in the end. It didn't really. This wasn't probably a reflection of I guess up until the first half, the end of the first half, Bogan. The Dragons lost Maguire 10 in the bin pretty early, and then they lost Fui Maono, obviously was sent off for the high shot on Pappy, which ruled Pappy out of the game. So, there was plenty of people riding whether Pappy was going to play or not, or going to trade him in or play him or captain him on the Sunday. And yeah, it was an absolute sick one for any of the Pappy owners out there, especially anyone that brought him in or anyone that captained him. Fuimono ended his afternoon, so at least he set up a try in the process. You can't be too unhappy. It could have been worse. But then it was the Nico Hines show, 182 from big Nico Hines. What do you say, Bogues? You had him in your team, but the bloke's not even got a team for next year, I don't think, and doesn't even have a starting position in that
Oh,
side. But
there's been there's been a bit of talk about Nico Hines. They're calling it a career best performance, what he put on. We'll see if he can maintain it.
yeah, look, and he had 5 try assists. He had a couple bad shots at goals and maybe one. Had a few offloads. Had a couple line breaks. Had I think 6 line break assists. Um, he was in everything. He had spiders on him every time he got the ball. But I mean, to be honest, if you're someone that had a Storm player like Hines in particular, they lose a man early, and this was the big thing I think got from the game. If a team has a player sent off and there's like half an hour to go or more, like in this game, I think there was like, 60, 70 minutes still to play, you're going to be licking your lips because at some point the attrition's going to come into play. These blokes aren't going to be able to match it with another team a man short for like an hour of footy. And that's pretty much what happened in this game. I think it was just pretty much every time the Storm got the ball, they were scoring tries towards the end of the game. But in particular, out on those edges, they just couldn't really contain them. And Nico Hines was a big benefactor of that. And you'll see it in the Penrith game as well, the exact same thing with SASA getting sent off. They were getting beaten 30-0 with 13 men before they lost a man. What was going to happen in that second half, So, Addo Carr, I think, got some donations as well. He scored, I think, a hat-trick, so that's 9 tries in 2 games.
Yeah.
The Fox.
Yeah, he had
Kenny Bromwich.
He had one that was absolutely gifted to him, though. I don't know which one of the Storm it was, but they could have went over themselves, but they've tossed it to him.
I guess he's making the most of scoring at the moment because he's probably not going to do it much next year when he joins the Dogs. Because you look at Kotrick, I think he scored his first try on the weekend for them. Yeah, look, as you can imagine, with 44 points there, plenty of the Storm guys benefiting. Kenny Bromwich had a good game. Jerome Hughes just keeps on keeping on. Jeromey's a big one, Bogues. He's 714k now. Had a little bit of a price drop even with the 74 on the weekend. But he is premium price, and that's probably all as a result of the big score against... we got a ton against the Roosters and 140 against the Warriors, and then 80 against the Sharks, 100 against South. So he's looming as a big pod for round 13. His ownership is 4%. So he's really low, and he's really expensive, but he's looming as a massive pod. So he is... like I said, uber expensive at the moment. Maybe you can wait a couple of weeks and hope he might drop in price a little bit. He's got an 84 break even, but I mean, he's scoring 100 against the Bunnies, 100 against the Chooks. He's sort of proving that maybe he's a bit matchup proof. Maybe he didn't start the year too great. He still has the 30s and 40s in him, but he's on an absolute tear at the moment in some sublime form. So they play Canberra, Brisbane Titans, and it's 3 weeks. So. I don't know how much cheaper he might actually get. Pappy obviously hurts Bogues as well. He was nearly 900k, I think, and had a big break even, so he's now closer to 800k. Where are we in Paps? Yeah, so he dropped 80k and is now faced with 195 break even. So if you do have perhaps someone like yourself, Bogues, I don't know what you're thinking. He'll miss this week and maybe even next week, and then faced with a really big break even on his return. So maybe you could think about going to a Teddy or something like that, or a Turbo if you don't have him, or a Latrell or something. You might want to have a think about that. With those things considered. On the Dragon side of the park, Ravalawa scored a hat-trick, 136, and he's going to miss the next couple of weeks for a charge as well. They'll miss, I think Maguire took the early plea, will miss 5 weeks. Fuimono's going to miss about 3 weeks or something like that, 3 or 4 weeks or something as well. And, it wasn't great for the Dragons by the end of this one. Just not really much happening across the park there. And the last game to round it out, and it was the world record holder setting the world record.
Now, a lot of the times we'll say the phrase, Oh, well, the score doesn't reflect how close the game was. This game was the fucking opposite. The
Mm.
Panthers absolutely blew the Titans away in the first 20 minutes of the game. And by half time, the SASA sent off just before half time. And even the commentators on KO or Fox, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, were trying to make excuses for people to still watch the game because, by all rights, this should have been fucking 70-0.
Agreed. I agree, Bugs. I totally agree. It wasn't a reflection of how good the Panthers looked. And they were up 30-0 at halftime against 13 men, so they only
Yeah.
scored
Oh, and
they only won
they, were,
only won the second half 18-12.
they were down a man for 10 minutes as
That's
well.
right.
They scored fucking 2 tries.
They did, yeah. So it was massive. Nathan Cleary obviously he scored the first 2 tries of the game and then scored the last try at the game. He's the junk time king, old Nathan Cleary, but that sealed the deal in terms of the record for him. But yeah, 3 tries, 2 try assists, kicked 8 from 8 with goal kicking sublime. Had 3 line breaks, had a couple line break assists. Just looking at his stat line here, it was just points everywhere. Gets through a heap of work with his defence. Offloads the ball. The kid's a beast. 23 years old, 225 points. It was a monster. Give him the keys to Penrith. He is the Prince of Penrith. He's going to be the king of Supercoach for probably years to come. And yeah, the Penrith team just looked absolutely amazing. They just scored all over the park. They, dominated them. I don't know how the Titans managed to score 2 tries in the end. I brought in Luai this week, Bogues. So Luai had a blinder for 23 points. I thought, they're going to tear the Titans apart.
He is such a good player. But it's just like, fuck. What do you do when you're in that team?
Well, for the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks watching Penrith, I just look at him and go, oh my God, every time he touches the ball, he looks like he's going to do something or he creates or he's dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. I don't know what happened on Sunday. He didn't need him. But anyway, so a couple of great trades from me last week, bringing in Papali and Luai. But anyway, it's pretty standard. James Fisher-Harris scored another meat pie. I think that's back-to-back pies for the big man too, which would be pretty unusual.
Those 2 blokes saved my ass. So
back-to-back tries for Fisher-Harris. Only played the 48 minutes, 51 in base, but helped with the try and the line break, and it was a good try on the weekend. But people might be looking at him for the buy at 550k. I'm a bit off him just because of his minutes haven't been awesome, and he doesn't really he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but he's going to probably score 50 points. But the last 3 weeks proved me wrong. But he scored tries in the last 2 weeks, so people might be a little bit misled over his scores. If you have a closer look, his base hasn't been that great. So 550k, make that of what you will, but. Big fan, but just he's not needing. They're not requiring him to play big minutes or anything like that. Dylan Edwards looked dangerous as always. 91. Liam Martin filled in for Capewell. 89. Scored a try. Looked really good. Crichton's hit a bit of form now. They're absolutely on a tear every week. Bloody Toto had the quietest week of the year with a 34. But yeah, any of these guys that won't play Origin, which is a lot of them, there's a bit of conjecture around who will get that New South Wales 6 spot, whether it will be Luai or Cody Walker or Whiten, but keep an eye on that because I think if Luai doesn't get the spot, he's nearly must have.
Surely they won't want to break up that Penrith pairing. Surely Brad Fittler will want them both.
I don't know. They seem to love Jackie Whiten for some reason. I don't think they're going to pick him in the centres. I think they'll go Turbo Mitchell in the centres, and then, that's 6. I don't know. I just don't see them leaving Whiten out. The only way they play Whiten is 6 or off the bench, I reckon. I don't think he gets a centre spot this year, but I don't know. I just have a feeling that Freddie said something the other day, or I read an article there, he said they don't really need the club combination. They don't rely on that as much anymore because the current squad that they have do get to play together a bit more regularly. They're picking and sticking a bit, I guess, and they do play with each other a bit. Which I don't know if that's a suggestion to say he's not going to pick Moai and Cleary, but I just sort of look at that and think, what do you make of that? Is it a bit of a smoky to put others off the trail that he's going to go with the Penrith halves? I think it's a no-brainer personally. Luai defends well. You got the combination there. You know what you're getting. They're playing brilliant football. Look at the club's performance. But who knows with Freddie and Joey? They love Jackie Whiten, and I wouldn't be surprised if they picked Whiten at 6. And then that obviously will have implications on who they pick on the utility, on the bench. If they go Whiten at 6, I reckon Pappy finds a bench spot. If they go Luai or Walker at 6, I reckon Whiten gets a bench spot. So anyway, Coruscant got spelled as well. So I was looking at Coruscant last week as a bit of a sneaky, but again, they're just not really needing that. He's getting a bit older, old Coruscant now. So he played 70 minutes, but they're just, they're getting points all over the park. They're not really needing Appy to do much. So he's a bit looking like Cookie this year. He might have the glimpses of brilliance, but you're not going to get that consistency because his football team around him is just so good. Yeah. Titans got absolutely belted. FEMA got some junk towards the end. I think he scored a try, set one up. He was the top scorer for them with 92, and then it drops off dramatically after that. Tino, in a well-beaten side, played 60 minutes, 52 in base. Fogarty tried hard. Kelly. The interesting one out of that one for me, Bugs, is Peachy. So everyone got on Peachy probably a couple of weeks ago. He looked like he was sort of being that pod.
You can't say he hasn't returned to his regular form.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I think he's gone around 5, he went ton, then he went 39, then went 80, and there was plenty of people jumping on him. And he's now gone a 48 and a 27. But, I mean, the problem is it looks like he's only going to play 40 to 50 minutes generally, maybe 50 to 60. He's definitely not playing 80 unless they cop an injury or something. So even with Fafita out and even with a guy getting sent off the park, he didn't play big minutes on the weekend. So probably a hold for 13. He's got a big break even. If you brought him in recently, you're going to have to sit on him, but he's maybe not the guy we thought he was going to be, and kind of glad I missed him now. I mean, I don't put it past him to score some big points in the next couple of weeks against the Dogs and the Sharks, but burnt owners on the weekend with that 27 for sure. And we nearly had an honourable mention to Herman SSA. I think we nearly had the all-time high score set in this game, and Herman SSA was 1 point off equaling the worst score of all time. I think a negative 12 from Trent Hodkinson is the all-time lowest score. So he nearly had a dual world record game there.
That fucking tackle by SASA though. Fucking what was he thinking?
So how dumb are footy players? All weekend he would have watched those 7 games before it, and even guys like Maguire and boys are like, have you not seen or heard obviously everything that's happened over the weekend? You guys have the benefit of seeing everything that happened in those games before you. Don't go out there with a swinging arm or something doing something stupid like that.
Charge out of the line like a fucking
and miss badly.
Fucking Leroy Jenkins, and fucking hit him with his fucking swinging arm. He's about 8 meters in front of the rest of his team.
And didn't miss. So, and yes, Ados, thank you for pointing out. I think Peachy took a 2-week suspension, Bogue. So if you had him, he's actually really stinging, because his next 2 fixtures were probably the best ones against the Dogs and the Sharks, and he now won't play them. So maybe you hold him for round 13 against the Storm.
Considering those that is a pretty good couple of games for the Titans.
What's that?
Considering that's a couple of good games for the Titans, what do you think of something like AJ Brimson for a couple of weeks?
I looked at Brim over the week. I traded out Pabby.
I'm just thinking that at the moment, because if Pappy's out,
I think he plays Origin.
What you think? AJ's?
I think Brimson gets the bench spot. If not, if Ponga's probably going to get the one, I reckon they bring Brimo off the bench as a utility. I guess it depends on who they go at hooker. Maybe Ben Hunt gets the hooker. I don't know what they're doing with the halves. I can only imagine they're going to go Munster, Cherubins in the halves. So it depends what they do with Ben Hunt. Maybe Ben Hunt gets that bench spot and Brimo doesn't, but there's a chance they pick Brimson at centre. I don't know, but maybe just watch out. You'd have to just... he's been on a bit of a tear in the last month, I must admit. The week I looked to get on him would have been... It might have been against Brisbane, and he scored 91, but he got sin-binned as well, so I was like, ooh. But he's been pretty good. Probably probably the start of the year, how probably been in the last month how people were expecting him to start the year. But what's his ownership? He probably isn't too highly owned, Bogues. Where is he? The young Brimo. He wouldn't be highly owned. 2%. So he's a massive pot. It's just whether you think he'll play Origin or not. And purely speculation at this time. If Hunt doesn't get the spot, Brimo will get a bench spot for sure, I reckon, worst case. So just maybe watch out for that. And that was Magic Round. Bogues, what are your thoughts on the new interpretation of the rules? Did you catch me up? I want to hear a bit of a Bogan spiel on...
You want to hear a Bogan spiel?
Or rant, sorry, on this new interpretation and the...
Well, mate, here's the thing. This is the game that people chose. Like, they fucking banned the shoulder charge and everyone accepts it. They banned fucking tackling in the air and everyone fucking accepts it. Like, where do you think it's all fucking leading? And I know it's a cliche, and a lot of people like to rip on people like myself that, you know, bring back the biff but
dinosaurs.
Yeah, it calls dinosaurs and shit, but mate, it's just another fucking step towards the fucking game being soft. And quite frankly, I think they should be going in the opposite direction. They like to rip off the fucking... I know I had my rant about Americans earlier today, but they like to rip off fucking American concepts all the time. How about this for a concept? 5 for fighting. So if fucking SASA comes out of the line and tears fucking Tio's head off, you can rest assured that the rest of the Panthers pack are going to belt the fuck out of him and only get 5 minutes.
In the baseball, there, let's go.
But that's why the rule is like that for ice hockey.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it, isn't it? How they allow those rules in a couple of those games, and they have the exact same issues that our games face with you know, in regards to players sort of coming back later and saying you didn't do enough to protect us.
Yeah,
it's happening.
But
yeah, it's quite amazing.
And that's the element. They talk about the smaller players and the halves and stuff like that being targeted and not protected, and it's like, well, there's no physical repercussion for players targeting them. So if you're that fucking keen, let the fucking forwards be the enforcers again.
Yeah, no, I must admit, I've watched some things over the weekend with Volandis, and he said, you know, they want to make sure players can go home, and there should never be contact with the head, and this and that.
Yeah, but fuck Volandis.
The
Fuck
other
a
thing
fucking
is he's tried to speed the game up.
Chardonnay swilling fucking horse racing millionaire can get fucked.
Well, and I think it was Finchy, I saw a video, said it best. Basically, you're trying to speed the game up, get rid of scrums and get rid of the stoppage times in play. But then you want to now bring in these rules where you're going to have guys getting sin binned for, you know, accidents happen. Guys bounce off the ball, hit someone high, or they're erring in judgment when they're, you know, a bit tired or whatever. Now what you're doing is taking blokes off the park, like you saw with SASA, Papali,
yeah, but it's like
whoever it was in the game before. And now you've got 12 men out there playing a quicker game with less blokes on the field. What do you think's going to happen by the end of the game? They're under more fatigue, making worse decisions, that's worse off than where they would have started.
And it's a bit of double jeopardy as well, because you're punishing the fucking team by sending the guy off, and then you fucking send him to the judiciary and suspend him for a few weeks.
Well, and you look at the games on the weekend, I mean, they were all high scoring. It reminds me of the under-20s a few years ago where defence was just non-existent. I mean, you got some of the good teams that are still defending well, don't get me wrong, but some of the scorelines, like...
And Ado's pointing out, or Teddy runs on his knees. But exactly though, this new rule change is going to get fucking exploited, just like Billy Slater exploited the tackling in the air rule.
Well, and the other thing I reckon, Bogues, is Volandis thinks the Seagulls beating Brisbane 50-6 is entertaining. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Brisbane fan. I love to see Brisbane get smashed. I hate Brisbane, but you know, Magic Round, you got 40,000 people there, whatever. It's not going to get people coming back to the game if their team's getting belted by 50 every week. And he had an interview with Gould to try and suggest that that should come back down to that club's recruitment, and it's their fault that their team's not performing and this and that. I mean, it's quite interesting. It's quite fascinating. Again, there's a lot of things to it, and I think a lot of the things he's brought in is quite contradictory to other things, like. He's tried to speed the game up, get rid of penalties with 6 against, but now you're going to bring in more penalties and more stoppages with this new things you're introducing now. So,
and once again, to show my age again too, but that's why they brought back the limits on interchange as well. Is because they wanted to bring in the fatigue factor. So you can't bring in the fatigue factor and then up the pace. It's like one or the other. So you either want to have this this high pace game and have unlimited interchange, or you want it to be a fucking slugfest with the forwards.
And like I said, it's a bit contradictory. Like, what do you want? Do you want fatigue and open footy, or well, with that you're going to have things, mistakes get made, errors in judgment of guys, you know, accidentally hitting someone high because they're tired. So. Yeah, the boys have said it, like Wade Grade, and look at a lot of guys' concussions, they're mistakes from tackles going low. So, you know, how are you going to stop guys' bad tackling technique or just tackling under fatigue? There's guys hitting hips every week, getting knocked out. That's not a result of high tackles. And maybe lining the pockets, as Clemmy says, they're going to start fining players now. They're not really going to get suspended. Are they just going to continually get fined? Is that a bit of a...
Well, then, oh, right, so then they're a fucking 50-year-old showing early onset dementia, and they've got no money as well.
Because they're getting fined for it.
You know what I mean. Like, it's fucking bullshit, and I'm sick and fucking tired. And I take personal responsibility for getting rid of Greenberg. I've had my fucking rants about him. I don't like fucking administrators in the game that are more fucking suit than footy fan. I'm not saying they have to be a player. It would be nice if they were a player, but at least they need to show some fucking passion towards the game. This Volandis guy, he's pure fucking business, and he can get fucked.
Yeah, rugby league, mate. It's rugby league. So, I mean, it's interesting. We'll have to see. They did come out and say they were going to be teething issues. I guess the problem you got is they just... I don't like.
Well, they did. They haven't said teething issues. They've basically fucking turned around and said, "This is the way it is." Oh, it's just a vocal minority that doesn't like it. Like fucking most of the fans you talk to don't fucking like what they saw on the weekend. Most of the players that have been interviewed don't like what they fucking saw on the weekend.
But I mean, Shilsey said it right. The viewer and the fan owns the games, whether the admin likes it or not.
Well, mate,
fans will vote with their feet. They won't go to games. They won't tune in. They won't buy memberships if they don't like what they're seeing. But the other thing that Volandis said
vote 1, Bogan for
NRL commissioner,
and I will bring in not just 5 for fighting. I'll make it 2 for fighting. So if a player gets their head knocked off and one of their fucking forwards fucking retaliates, 2 in the bin. Cool down.
Well, the other thing he said was it's about trying to boost junior participation. We have some of the worst participation rates.
I fucking hate when people say that. You know why?
That's his narrative, Bogues. That's part of the narrative around this.
What's one of the largest growing sports in the world at the moment? Mixed martial arts.
Oh, yeah?
So the UFC is going gangbusters, and those cunts will belt the fuck out of each other in the head constantly.
Yeah, so that's the narrative. There's new Phil Gould. Try and catch that one if you can. It's an interesting one. They're trying to boost participation, trying to take into consideration the growing rate of the population, and our sport isn't growing with participation at junior level.
Making the sport boring is not going to want kids.
Well,
if you keep making it fucking even more softer, the kids are just going to fucking stay at home and play Fortnite, and I don't fucking blame them.
Well, and Phil Gould and Paul Gallen said it as well, and I don't know why Gould didn't say this to him in the interview, but you can't compare professional top-level rugby league to junior rugby league. It's not the same thing. You can't try and draw that line. direct link.
Yeah, but
I think they are doing good things at the junior level in regards to safety and all that, but it's not being promoted enough. So,
and what do they want the game to fucking turn into soccer? Whereas if a player gets slight brush on the fucking head, they'll fucking fall down like they're shot.
Well, that's what they're doing now with crushes and all these sorts of things. They're getting hit high. They know they're getting penalties and they're staying down. So
anyway, is that enough of a rant for you, mate?
Jetty. That was good. I think we sparked a bit of a fire there. That was good, though. You got going. Good work. Been a while. Anyway, so moving on now to round 11. We'll put Magic Round behind us. We'll see how that evolves. And big shout out to Jetty. We'll get there eventually, Bogues. But Jetty's sitting at number 3 now.
Yeah, I know.
Bronze at the moment. Big Jetty. This is massive. Big Jetty's in for a big year. All right, so we start out on the Thursday night, and what an absolute blockbuster this will be with the Cows taking on Newcastle. I didn't tip us last week, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to tip us again this week. Yeah, like I said, I think Lolo is a legitimate look, even though he doesn't play the bye. I think he could potentially be a keeper in that second row spot. I mean, at the moment, all you've got to go off is those minutes of the last 2 weeks or so, and they're big. So I think Lolo's a look at under 600k. For the Knights, you've got Hymel Hunt out of the side, so Musgrove is back in, and Callum Ponga still won't be there. And for the Cowboys, it'll just be Hess that misses out with concussion. So Tommy Gilbert comes into the starting team, and Helium Lukey will make his NRL debut off the bench. Valentine Holmes, as always, is an option, Bogues. Again, won't play the bye, probably plays Origin, but he's looking like a potential keeper for the run home in the centre wing position because you can pick him there. Some really good scores over the past pretty much for the whole season, apart from round 1. 560k and 92 break even this week. That could be in for a score against the Knights this week, and then they play the Warriors next week.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Brent. I'm reading the chat, and they're a bit behind us. Climmy said that Biff is no good for the kids nor the promotion of the sport, and I've just got to say to that I disagree with that completely. You look at the money that combat sports are bringing in at the moment. You can't say that people don't want to pay money for Biff, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Look, I can see what he's trying to do with it, but I also, grew up watching rugby league, and what we saw on the weekend wasn't what we all know and love, and we all know that. So yeah. Obviously in this one, I don't know what to do with Barnett Bogues. It looks like he's not going to get big minutes regardless. Adam O'Brien's an absolute lunatic, so he's going to play 80.
As was pointed out on Ado's podcast, he's probably your best player.
Well, he is, and I don't know why they can't play him for at least 60 minutes. At least put him out there for 60. You can't be playing this bloke sub 50 minutes. He's our best defender. He gets through the most amount of work. He takes the best hit-ups. Well, maybe not the best, but, he runs with impact. He runs the lines. He'll do the tough stuff. So, 96 break even at 540k. You've probably copped some losses on him, nearly 100 grand in the last 2 weeks. It is. You've probably got to sit him out through round 2, round 13 at least, because Frizzell will go from Origin, I'd imagine. So you're probably going to get him on an edge for Origin as well. So maybe you just have to cop it sweet and ride it out with him. But I couldn't blame people for jumping off because he's stinking it up. For me, it's just a matter of whether I even play him in my 17 now, or for anyone that has him. A lot of people jumping on Bradman Best, Bogues, and it's probably the worst thing I've done. I've done many bad things this season. But trading in Bradman Best about 2 or 3 weeks ago is far quickly looking like possibly one of the worst ones. Look, he's now 400.
Didn't go too well last week though.
440k. I picked him up at 500k, but Newcastle have no shape in the back line. We don't have genuine halves. We don't have Ponga out there creating threat. We don't have anything going. But Bradman barely got any good ball. It's a concern. I can understand people picking him up for round 13, but you're getting him cheap now. You might even get him a little bit cheaper depending on what happens on the weekend. That said, we've been destroyed. He was terrible on the weekend defensively, so he needs to bounce back, and we need him to do a bit more. His base isn't too bad, but even still, in the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been amazing. But yeah, Badman's probably the one bloody killing me. That was the worst pod ever. I think a few of us picked him up that week. Benny, me, Marna, and Kando, to name a few. And my God, has he stunk it up. Shout out to Matty Buckman as well. Just said he's a VP at a junior rugby league club, Bogues, and anyone that wants a heads up on the rules to shout out. So cheers, Matty.
Oh yeah. Thanks for what you do too, Matty. Like we need people in the admin at the junior rugby league levels. I think most of us have played junior rugby league though, so we know that the rule set. Those of us who have played it know the rule set's much different and much more focused on learning the skills and being safe and stuff like that. So I know that those of us involved in the game are already aware of it. And I understand people wanting to manage the perceptions of parents who don't know the game as well. But on the other hand too, bring back the biff. It's entertaining. It gets butts on seats.
Shout out to Matty Buckman. I totally agree. The game wouldn't operate at that level without people like that. So big shout out. That's probably about it. The Knights have been a bit underwhelming. Like, who knows? Davey Clemmers stunk it up, even though I sort of said he's maybe looming as a bit of a sleeper in the next few weeks. But I don't know. I don't know whether to believe the rumours that he's wanting to transfer out or what's going on there. But he's stinking it up. Put the offload away, so he's probably not relevant now. Then the other one's probably Frizz, but yeah, he's going to play Origin, I'd imagine. So that probably shoots that in the foot. But Frizz has probably been our best player for the year and probably one of our best Supercoach scorers consistently up there with Jaden. So
yeah, well, we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what he's priced at now, but
600k and hasn't scored under 70 in the last 3 weeks. So moving on, the first game on the Friday, back to the normal fixtures with Warriors Tigers, Bogues. Could be a good one, this one. Could be, I don't know what to make of this one. So Curran's out now for a month, it looks like, with that hyperextension to the elbow. And Berry's out with a HIA, so Montoya returns there. Tavanga goes back to the bench with Kane Evans back in the starting side. Still no AFB. And Jack Murchie in the back row with Bailey Sirenen out with a knee issue. I was hoping for a few of my draft teams where I've stashed AFB that he will be back, but no sign of AFB. The Tigers have been unchanged. So Adam Dewey will stay at centre and Moses Imbai back at 6. So you can't really blame them for that.
I tell you that now that they've got a few players back, and that Tigers pack's looking pretty formidable there. But
yeah, and you've got to be looking at the Tigers guys. Maybe someone like Luciano is a bit of a sleeper pod for round 13. Dewey's a bit awkward now. He's just gone up 100k. He's playing centre, only pickable at fullback 5'8". So what do you make of that?
What do you think of Laurie? Is he a sell? Has he peaked?
Well, I don't know. I think I've seen a few people are jumping off Laurie, which I found interesting. Oh, I just assumed you had to hold him for round 13 and then you jump off him after that. But I am seeing him getting traded out of some teams at the moment, and he is making up 4% of trades at the moment. So what's his break even at? People are thinking he's peaked and he won't be back. I mean, I'm not trading Dane Laurie. 107 break even at 480k. I don't know, if he's going to be a pod to some teams in round 13, I'll take that. You thinking of trying to get him out, Bogues?
No, I'm not. I've just heard a lot of people talking about it. I'm going to hold him.
I mean, they do play Penrith in round 13, but they're going to be missing some troops as well, you'd have to imagine. Maybe not too many, but at least Cleary, probably Yo, maybe Luai, maybe Toto. I mean, I don't know, but I still think Laurie's not doing it with. I know his last 2 scores haven't been great, but he can score 60s pretty easily. And as Jetty mentions, the ceiling is just too high. You saw that 119 in him a couple of weeks ago. So trade him out at your peril, Bogues, or anyone that will. Warriors side, probably not much doing, really. Reece Walsh still coming off the bench. None of these guys are going to play, obviously, in round 13, but I think after that, if you don't already have Tohu, he's pretty much must-have from round 14 onwards. But, again, it's probably like Lolo. I couldn't blame anyone for bringing guys like Harris and Lolo in now, knowing that they're just going to be keepers till the end. And if you're starting to burn through trades, maybe you need to think about that sort of stuff, because basically any of these guys after round 13 will play for the rest of the year. Aiken's back there, but yeah, otherwise nothing probably screaming out at me there. If you know any smokies, Jock Madden's going to continue to be an AE nightmare off the bench, and Sean Bloor, let's just minute watch him over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully he can build up to maybe 30, 40 plus minutes, and we'll see what happens, whether he can steal that spot off Garner or something like that. Second game on the Friday is Battle of the Sutherland Shire, with Cronulla taking on the Dragons at Nestor Jubilee. Could be an absolute stinker. The Dragons have got about 35 blokes out. Maguire's out, Duffy's out, Ravalawa's out, Tarek Sims is out, Tyrrell Fumaono's out. So a few outs there. They've got Billy Burns in the centres, Cody Ramsey, the fullback, new face pie, Safa Malasili, can't even say his name, at lock. Jackson Ford comes into the back row. I don't know what to make of this game. I wouldn't know who to tip. You have not got the Sharks playing round 13, but you do have the Dragons. I do like Jack Bird a little bit, Bogues. He wasn't great on the weekend, but they got absolutely pumped by the end of it. And I think Bird's a great buy at 450k with a pretty low break even. Pickable at centre wing, second row with the duality, he's really helpful. Bird's probably a standout for me. I just think he's busy as a centre, breaks heaps of tackles and can score points. Maybe, I don't know if this is the week, they still do have their halves there. Maybe they need him a little bit more. Maybe they don't keep Ramsey there and he might go to fullback, who knows. But I really like Jack Bird as a buy out of that Dragon side if I was looking at anyone. No SJ again, so SJ's in the extended bench. We'll have to see what happens there. But who else am I missing? Anyone out of that team? It's sort of hard, Bogues. Like, I'm not sold really on any of those Dragons. Max Fagai's going to get his price rise that he's just missed out on. So if you had him, you're going to get some money out of him, and who knows if he's even going to play 13, but you'll actually get some coin, which is nice. The only other one would be maybe Vaughan as a bit of a smoky, but even here, he's just been pretty mediocre, to be fair, this season. And Ados has actually said, what do you think of Paul Vaughan? I don't know, Ados. His minutes aren't huge. His PPM's not too bad, but he scored a try last week with his 93, but he hasn't got the offload going really or anything like that. Isn't really adding too much else apart from base to his game. So, I mean, at 470k, I'd rather just have a couple set and forget props. Like, you just leave a Cypher Parley there with the TPJ or a Haas and not worry about guys like this, because it's a bit of a burn to get him in and a burn to get him out, unless you see him going on a tear. Otherwise, yeah, move on to the next, Bogues. I'm not going to say too much about that Sharkies side. Sorry, Sharkies fans.
Fair enough. I'll let you talk about this one. I'm just going to run to the fridge.
Leave me with the blockbusters to talk about. It'll be Titans up against the Dogs. So plenty of options in this Titans side. They do play the round 13 bye, round 13. They don't play the bye in round 13. But yeah, looking at guys like maybe Brian Kelly, who again hasn't probably done what we would have hoped so far this season, but he's busy. They've got a good couple of games coming up, and he's pretty cheap at 440k with a 40 break even. They do miss Fafita still. I don't know. Kelly has been pretty disappointing this year. I always do go back to him for some reason, but he could be a little bit of a point of difference there, a little bit of a smoky considering his price. It's sort of hard, right, Bogues? Because you're probably not going to trade out like a Sam Walker, or you're not going to trade Cleary out anyway for someone like Jamal Fogarty or Tanner Boyd.
I already got Tanner Boyd.
Why'd you jump on? Was he going to make some cash, did he?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how he goes. He didn't score too well last week, but I think he went up. So
I mean, the interesting one you do have there is Masters, Sam Masters, who transferred over from the Cows, just effective immediately, has got that centre spot. He wasn't good on the weekend, didn't do much on the weekend, but he got belted. But he has been a keeper centre wing in the past, folks. He's averaged 60 points in 2018.
can I say
Obviously,
that was a joy of Magic Round to see as well? All the Queensland teams get fucking walloped.
you gotta love that, don't you? Shout out to the Queenslanders. Obviously, he probably goal kicked in 2018, which is why his average is a bit up. But he's got pedigree, young Nissan, so at 400k, he's a bit like Brian Kelly. He's probably a bit nowhere. He's got a big break even this week of 120. But maybe just a little one to put on the watch list with Essan coming into 13. If he goes sub 400k, he could be a little sneaky, but you might want to see a little bit more from him. But hopefully with the transfer, he's feeling a bit rejuvenated and gets a bit more involved, a bit more busy. Tino's going to start at lock with SA gone and Peachy as well. Peachy's obviously taking the early plea, will miss 2 weeks, so Tino will go to lock and Fatoika will go to prop. I think Fatoika might play Origin and obviously Tino as well, so you can't really be bringing those guys in at this point. Same with Brumo. Otherwise, your trade targets are probably like Kelly's Masters. Maybe Sammy would be the Ultra Pod if you fancy this matchup. Hoping that he might bag a pie or two, but playing on the wing, a bit busier maybe. Dogs, few new faces for the doggies team, Bogues. There is a bloke on debut, Aaron Shook, 19-year-old in the centres. Matt Dory comes into the starting side with Elliott back to the bench. Still no sign of Josh Jackson. I mean, I look at that Bulldog side and I think they should probably get beaten pretty comfortably, but the Titans haven't been anything special. I must mention I'm a big fan of Reynolds for Tony. He's a guy that sort of had just come onto the scene this year, but he played really limited minutes on the weekend, probably not Supercoach-wise too relevant, but looks to be a player of the future, young Renoff. Bustles and hustles and runs hard. I'm a big fan of Big Renoff. Still no sign of Flano. I think the Dogs do play... No, they don't play 13, so you probably can't look at them too closely. Thompson's probably the only one worth considering Bogues, as we mentioned earlier. And again, at this point, I don't know if you're going to bring him in unless you think he's going to be a guy you're going to keep for the run home, as maybe in your top sort of 18 or 19 has that duality between front row, second row, which is really helpful. And I think if you do bring him in, you're going to get him for the run home. But it's just whether you think you're getting a bargain at 500k, which it's not really a bargain, but it's not a bad price to bring someone that's pretty much averaging 65. Which is really solid. So I don't know if I'd touch anything else in that one. Moving on to...
this could get ugly.
The SCG, where the Chooks like to come and play. And Teddy's back, folks. I must admit, as a Gutho owner with 170-something break-even, I am tempted to pull the trigger and go straight back to Teddy and bank some ultimate cash and get Teddy at an ultra-discounted price, because I think there could be some sausages coming up here for the Broncos. The Chooks are unchanged from last week, which is amazing.
Yeah, it'd be their first week in a while where they haven't had a dozen fucking injuries.
Yep, just excuse me, I'm about to sneeze.
Oh, how professional, turning the mic off to sneeze.
COVID. They want to sound COVID-y. I mean, it remains to be seen. Still not sure about that combo with like Walker and Lamb and Teddy. Maybe Lamb helps Teddy, just giving him that early ball, and I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. But obviously, big news on the Brisbane side of the park. Milford's gone, and Albert Kelly is back. Bogues, I'm a massive fan of Albert Kelly. A few years ago, he played in the NRL.
Milford gone as in what? As in gone to Queensland Cup or gone injured?
No, he's. I believe he's been dropped.
Wow, that's a lot of fucking money to be playing park footy.
Well, they won't be on it next year, that's for sure. But I believe the Sharks may be inquiring about his services, giving the signing of Adam Reynolds to Brisbane for 2022 onwards, which would be funny. They missed out on Reynolds, so they'll take second place. But yeah, Albert Kelly gets a shot. He's pretty old. He's been a little bit injury prone, but I was a huge fan of him back when he was playing in NRL for the Titans. I haven't seen him play for a few years, but I'll be looking forward to see how he returns. He's a pretty big 5'8", and I don't know if he's really overweight or anything at this point, but I used to be a big fan of Albert Kelly, so I reckon we'll have to see. He's a bit of a running 5'8". He's got a good passing game. He's a good young. He was young. He's probably not that. He's probably about 30 now or something like that. But yeah, looking forward to see young Albie. Maybe a bit of a draft pickup. Might try and look at him at draft, but yeah, I think Brisbane are in for it again. You could chuck the C on Teddy. You could chuck the C on Sam Walker, Angus Crichton. I'm going to place a Tilly.
Could I say too that if you're really looking at gambling, you see there, you'd expect Ikevalu to pick up a few tries.
Even Daniel Tupu, Bogues. Both of those wingers are real genuine prospects. I mean, Ikevalu's been massive, taking Brett Morris's spot, and in the last couple of weeks he's gone 111 and 73, and Tupu scored 2 tons in the last 3 weeks. So maybe they're going out to Tupu a little bit more now that BMOS is gone. And yeah, Tupu was only 480k about a month ago. He's about 100k more than that now. Obviously, again, they don't play round 13, and Tupu's maybe a chance at Origin, but I like Tupu as a bit of a pod. Team list. Keenan Palacia is a guy that's been highly touted. Bogues, I think he makes his debut. Is it his debut? Oh no, it'll be his second. Add to his. It'll be his third game. I'm reading here, so he'll be there. Corey Oates has been dropped. David Mead comes in there, and who else is gone for Brisbane? There's another one. It doesn't really matter. Ricky's gone, so Kobe Hetherington will come in. Yeah, jump on the Chooks. They'll probably score 1,000 points at the SCG if it's good afternoon, but I think Brisbane could be in for it in this one.
Oh, this one could be ugly as well.
Yeah, potentially. Round out Saturday night, and yeah, Canberra have been playing as bad as anyone. So, big test for Ados's boys. Taking on Melbourne in the nation's capital, and it's been cold here, Bogan, as you would know. It is really chilly here now. There's some bite in that there.
Yep, and it's always 10 degrees colder out at Bruce Stadium. So
the concrete jungle out there, it doesn't help anything at all. So, yeah, the Melbourne Storm will travel down. Whiten will miss this game, Papali misses this game, and Hodgson will miss this game all through suspension. So Sammy Williams comes into the halves with Georgie Williams. Louis moves to prop. Schneider makes his debut, as I'm reading here. Hudson Young moves into lock, and Sutton will return quicker than expected to find the bench spot. Tapane, Rapana, and Saviola are still at least a week away, and Croker still is getting some work done on. It was a shoulder originally, but now he's got a bit of a knee issue, so Jared Croker's still gone. Storm side of things, you're going to miss Pappy at least this week, maybe next week, and then who knows what. Nico Hines goes back to fullback. They've chucked Chris Lewis into the halves with Hughes, which is interesting because he was like sort of a back rower, so I guess he's just going to defend one in to where he usually would if he was playing on the edge. I think they usually chuck him on the edge. You've also got Brendan Smith coming back in, so Grant's still missing out of the team is a pretty big one as well. So Brendan Smith slots straight back into hooker, and Tyson Smith is out with an injury. So Penne drops in for Riley Jacks on the bench for the hooking role, I guess. Yeah, I don't know what you make of this one. Nico Hines owners will be loving Nico Hines. So
yep.
I think there's obviously people that will look at Hines. He's 582k now, Bogues. He went up like 130 odd K just this week, and he's got a negative 60 something break even. So he's potentially still a buy, given that you can pick him at centre wing. He's going to make a heap of cash. He's named at fullback. He's probably going to kick goals as well. Pappy's going to miss at least a week. You got Munster out, so even if Munster comes back, I mean, I think if you've missed him at this point, you've missed him.
Just look at the fucking depth the Storm have, though. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, hey. It'll be interesting to see whether the Raiders can match it with them and what happens in this one.
Yeah. Like when you lose a Harry Grant, but you've got a Brandon Smith, and you lose a Pappenhausen, but you've got a Hines. Yeah.
Yeah, and Hines has killed it. I mean, I reckon I'm not going to bother with Hines. I've sort of missed all his points. He's going to make a bit of cash, but he's just too expensive for me. Jetty's just saying in the chat now he thinks he's a must-have. I don't know. I reckon I've missed him.
Well, you know what? Jed Rose is probably better to listen to than us.
100%. So if Jetty's saying he's a must-have, get Hines in this week. Maybe I'll just bring him in now because Jetty said that and he's sitting number 3. But yeah, have a look at Hines, see what you got in your centre wings. Fergo's stinking it up, but it's 150k to upgrade to him, and he'll play 13. I mean, Barnett, it's only going to cost you 40k to get from Barnett to Hines if you've got a dual centre wing, dual centre second row, which I have Ben Trebojevic. So in theory, I could go Barnett to Nico Hines potentially. Even Satili Tupanua is an option, but I like him as a matchup this week, so I wouldn't trade Satili. It's 200k to get from Curran to him. But I mean, there's some options there potentially, but now Jetty's saying, no, please don't, he'll score 3. No chance, Jetty. Yeah, so Nico Hines, if you've got Olam, he looks really good. Obviously, Addo Carr's just in crazy try-scoring form. Jerome Hughes is ultra expensive because of the form he's in. Brandon Smith could be a little bit of a smoky, maybe, but Grant should be back next week. But you got to imagine, over that origin period, around 13, it could be big minutes for Smith again. But I mean, he started the year at hooker with Grant out, and he wasn't amazing unless he gets some attacking stats. Otherwise, yeah, Harwa Nira, maybe you're looking at him. You could still probably bring him in. I can't spell his name. 22 break even at 375k. I do not mind. I still don't mind CHN. I'm a big fan of CHN. I don't know. I can never get away from him. But yeah, that's probably about it for classic votes. Drafts, there's stuff happening everywhere with some of these guys, but for classic, that'll do me. Yeah, it's probably pretty solid. Ados, Curran to Hines. And what will be an absolutely cracking
fucking Dubbo of all places.
And that's a bit of a, I don't want to call it a stinker, no offence to any of the Dubbo people out there or whatever, but could have been, I don't know, the coverage is a bit different when they go to these grounds. I think it's great they take the game out there, but
really, Rabbitohs versus Panthers, they should have realised that that's too big a fucking. Great if you're in Dubbo. I
mean, they talk about getting numbers to the games and all that. I mean, it's great for, like I said, those areas to get the games. But you would have big game.
When you were picking the draw near the start of the season, you would have went, yeah, this is a blockbuster. Like the Panthers are going to fucking whoop the Rabbitohs now on current form. But at the start,
they get maybe 8,000 in there compared to maybe what they could have got 40,000 or something somewhere else. But anyway, whatever. That doesn't really bother me too much. But yeah, it should be a blockbuster to start off the Sunday with South taking on Penrith Bogues, and Latrell Mitchell is back, so they get a bit of familiarity back into that spine. Walker obviously goes back to 6. Reynolds is now back. Cookie obviously at 9. They still miss Cameron Murray a fair bit, but Latrell Mitchell is a big in for the Rabbitohs, and Mansour is also back, so another good name for them. And they'll need to be at their best if they're going to compete here. I think we're going to get a really good idea of where Souths are at in this game, because they're coming up against a team at the peak of their powers in absolutely sublime form in the Panthers, mate. Are they unchanged? No, Capewell comes in, so Martin drops back to the bench.
So they're stronger than last week.
So they're probably arguably stronger. It should be an absolute blockbuster. The forward packs will pair up, and these 1 to 7s are all class. So should be a great game out there at Dubbo, and the Dubbo locals will be absolutely
you'd be stoked.
And it will be interesting to see whether people keep the C on Cleary Do you leave it on him? Is he going to produce? Can he tear the Rabbitohs apart the way that he's pretty much torn teams apart all season? He doesn't shy away from the challenge, and he definitely doesn't go missing. So I couldn't blame anyone for going a VC on Teddy and the C on Cleary this week or something like that. But it will probably be a pretty, boring move in terms of most people will probably be doing that sort of thing this week. In terms of buys for Origin, Rabbitohs don't play round 13, but Panthers do. So, it's a bit hard with the uncertainty around the 6 with Mawai. You've also got Toto, whether he gets a spot. Stevie Crichton as well. You've probably missed him now because he was ultra cheap 2 weeks ago. The week I brought him best, I looked at Bird and I looked at Crichton, and I picked the worst of the three. But Crichton's now not cheap again because he's had a couple of blinders the last 2 weeks. But he's like the kind of guy, once he gets a bit of that confidence and a bit of that form, he goes on some tears. So we know his try scoring ability is like as well. And he's got a nice little combination with Charlie out there on the right edge as well, Bogues. Otherwise, looking forward to a cracking game of footy to start off on Sunday at 2 o'clock there with those two. Into the game to finish off the round, which will be Parrot and the Eagles, which again is looking like a good matchup. Both teams in a bit of form, or should I say Parramatta taking on Tom Trbojevic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Parramatta have only got the one change, so Joey Lussick comes onto the bench for Roy Stone, dropping to the reserves. Moses is fine despite coming off the field late in the game against the Warriors. And Nakora and Dylan Brown still missing for 1 and 2 games respectively. So they'll get Nakora back next week and Dylan Brown still a couple weeks. Des Hasler, Chuck Cade, Cuss to replace Foran at 5'8", which is interesting. I thought maybe Schuster, but obviously with no Siren in there, it makes sense to probably just leave Schuster there. Alaka Latu it was awesome last week as then. He's been providing heaps of punch for them out on the edges as well. Tapau comes into the starting side with Kepi on the bench, but they've been doing the little match day switches a fair bit. They just chuck Kepi back in, and Tapau's been awesome off the bench for them. In terms of buys, there's plenty of teams with a heap of the Parramatta guys, folks. Obviously, given that they'll play round 13, as long as it's not someone playing Origin, which, looking at their team, maybe Junior Paulo, maybe Maddo, maybe. I don't know if they go with Maddo.
Oh, I've fucking got enough Parramatta players. I don't need any more.
Moses won't, Fergo won't, obviously Sivo won't. Gutho's a random smoky, but even as I said, Gutho with the 760 plus K with 170 break even, I'm tempted to jump off this week and just go straight to Teddy. But yeah, still plenty of options. It's going to be interesting. The Eagles are in some crazy form given Tommy Turbo's return. You've got Saab, playable option now that Tommy's there. Cherry Evans has found a little bit of form. Who else you got there? Schuster. Yeah, it'll be a good match. This should be a really good game to finish the round. I agree, Shilsey. Good to see a couple good games on the Sunday instead of we're talking about Cowboys Bulldogs on a friggin' Sunday afternoon to finish the round. So yeah, Supercoach wise, look at those Para guys that won't play Origin if you don't already have 7,000 of them. I think there's some people talking about going Sam Walker to Moses, but Sam Walker's at 600.
Ado's talking about Campbell Gillard. I reckon just his Mo. If I could just pick his Mo in my team, for sure.
It's one of those things, it looks like he's only going to get capped at sort of 50, maybe a little bit over 55 minutes if he's lucky, depending on the week. He hasn't been awesome. He scored a double on the weekend and only got 94, but he's definitely a pod. 400 under 500k. Obviously, you are looking for a front row option, ADOS, if you're talking about Vorney and RCG. And yeah, he's probably maybe a little bit cheap, 25 break even. But yeah, I don't know. He's busy in the minutes, but just if you could get a few more minutes, it'd be nice. if you could be playing like 60 minutes, and maybe with Paulo out of the side, and who knows who else, maybe he does find a few more minutes over the next sort of month, 6 weeks or so. Maybe, but I'll be sort of, I don't know if I'll worry about him at this point personally. Same with Warney. But yeah, looking forward to this game. Jacob Arthur's going to get his second game as well. I thought he looked really good, Bogues, and yeah, it should be a cracking game of football. And another big one, I guess, is whether Reid Marnie ends up getting a Queensland jersey, Bogues. Whether he gets the bench spot, whether they decide, that's the other possibility is if they go Grant at hooker and whether they name Reid Marnie to come off the bench.
Jeez, that's a big if though.
Well, and that's the thing with Brimson. I mean, I think Brimson obviously covers more positions, but it just depends. Mate, I think Brimson's probably a bit smarter, and Reid Marnie probably ends up 18th, 19th man, or something like that. But whatever they call it now. But yeah, he's on a tear. Been a bit quiet the last couple of weeks, but obviously the HIA last week, and then just didn't really need to do too much on the weekend. Nah, Ados is dying with Tico, hence the option, looking at the front row options. I still think you're better off trying to get IPAP or Pangai Jr. up into that those two front row spots for now, and then trying to find something else, whether it's like a Jack Bird or Nico Hines. If you can get Nico Hines, if you can get someone else into your front row, Tico to Nico Hines wouldn't be bad. Ados. Anyway, that is round 11 preview done and dusted, folks.
Alrighty. Now on to the fucking leagues. So the group winner for the week was fully sick Adam with 1641.
Monstrous score.
Followed by, we got some great fucking names. Wheeldo Baggins, Ben, and he scored 1631. Dylan with the Dream Team with 1624. Mark with Chumps 1618. And Chooks 2X Blade. He scored a 1615 to round out the top 5.
Solid. Like I've said before, I've been playing Supercoach for fantasy NRL for over 10 years, and I've never cracked a 1600.
I've never cracked a 1500. What are you talking about?
So fuck you guys. Nah, great scoring, guys. Well done. It's huge.
Overall, though, it is still Jed with Pog Champion. Scored 1400, sitting in third overall. He is in striking distance to take the whole fucking thing.
No, he is sitting absolutely pretty. And what do you get? So he got the 1400, which in the big scheme of things, he was probably thinking he was going to drop. I think we got him in the chat and he was expecting to open up the app and fall out to 500 plus. But as it turned out, he went up, Bogues. And I guess it just sort of showed some of the top teams didn't score as well. Across the park.
It's always the way, though, as you get later into the season, to get those top scores of the week, you really have to be playing unorthodox teams and jag a few.
Yeah, so, I mean, I definitely am trying not to provide any advice to Jed at this point or sway his.
Well, he said Nico Hines is a lock, so everyone get on Nico.
I want to have nothing to do with poor Jedley and what does or does happen for him, but we're all behind Jeddy and hope he could do the big win this year would be massive. So he's put himself in a great position to do that as well, Jedley. That we're all behind you, mate.
Sitting in second place is James with Perpetual Motion. He's sitting in 60th. I don't know if James is a new entry or not. That's the thing with the group. You can join at any time.
I remember that name, Perpetual Motion. Smick Rickards does look new, though. Ponging Fours, People's Chins, Screaming Eagles, Jimbo, Better Than Spandau, Burgos Bulldogs, and Shaggy Squad all look reasonably familiar.
Oh, Shaggy Squad, I believe, is Benny's brother.
Oh, it is too. So Benny's second team is what he means to say. But yeah, that Smick Richard looks different, but Perpetual's still been, I've seen that name a few times, sort of sticking up there, but Yeah, cracking. All those guys buried well in the top 1,000, most of them in the top 500, which is massive, and a couple in the top 100. So keep on keeping on, guys. But yeah, at this point, it's bloody hashtag Jed for the win in 2021.
So in the BJ All-In, it was Troy with Humdinger. He seems to be up there every week at the moment with a
He does.
1548. Sitting in 6,000th roughly overall.
I think I played him in all in this week too. That was killer.
Hard picks, Sambo, 1541. Polly's Pocket Rockets up there again with a 1539. So some high scores in the All-In. Agony of Defeat, he was one of the finalists last year, I believe. He's sitting there 1526. And Marcus with Nightclub Incident with a 1505.
Yeah, big scores there. Clinty as well. Like a few of these guys have chucked him in the chat, which is good to see. But yeah, all those guys there, massive weeks. So good work, guys.
The BJ Invitational. Bundy took this out this week with a 1525, followed by Mark. Oh, I got to say too, this is like the fucking third week in a row in the BJ Invitational that I've went head to head with the top scorer. So it doesn't matter what I do, I get fucking absolutely whooped. Followed by Mark with the fucking Cowboys, 1507. Ado with Living to Vida Loca with 1488. That's a very fucking interesting score there. Call Me Big Papi with a 1478. And Badonkadonk Dan with a 1476. Thoughts, Breno?
Some cracking scores there. Absolutely cracking. And shout out to Bundy as well. A mate of mine, flying at the moment, moved into nearly the top 1,000. He's on a bit of a tear, I think, in recent weeks. So good stuff. And Leanne as well in the top 1,000. She's flying as always.
Oh, Leanne's been in good form for the past
She's
few weeks.
A weapon, man.
On to the draft results. So, Hampto's Hitmen gave Dr. K. Anto a bit of a touch-up.
You take this, Bogues. We'll be back in 2 seconds.
Yeah, go and look after that kid, mate. Psycho Circus just got up over me by 8 points. So, nearly got a win, guys. You got to start cheering for me. Hell's Grannies went down to Trent with scrambled legs. He got up 861 to 747. Tomo, Call Me Big Papi, he went down to Benny's Lads, 729 to 706. And Mana got up over Adro with a hefty score of the week, 902 to 848. And that is the draft results. Going to the draft ladder. So still close pretty much all the way through except for me. You could probably, I don't know if we can count out Kane yet. You never can count out Kane. But he's got a couple of wins to catch up. But apart from that, not a lot between 8th spot and the top position. So only 2 games in it. If you're in 8th, you still got a chance to get that top spot. Well, waiting for Brent to come back, so...
I'm back.
You're back?
Asthmatic.
Fair enough, mate. Was just saying, not a lot in it. Probably me and Kane are the only 2 you could wipe out of the competition so far.
You're gone. Kando will make a shake of it, but not getting any easier because you just look at that log jam in the middle there.
Yeah.
You're gone.
I'm gone. So I nearly beat fucking Psycho Circus. They're sitting in 5th.
Well, you know what's the worst bit about me saying that is I play you this week, so I'll just put myself on show.
Yeah, well. And that is the leagues for the week. Just a reminder, group code 692946. and at BJ on Game Day Show on Twitter. Got anything to plug, Breno?
Turbo Hammy's Cup. I got absolutely sausaged against House of Wrath on the weekend in the head-to-head and not doing awesome overall now after me 1200, but still not last. So go check that out on Facebook, search it up. Ados is in there, Kando's in there, and you can find all the podcasters in there, so go check that out. You were mentioning maybe...
Adrianosaurus on SoundCloud. Check out Ado's podcast. Hassle him on Twitter, see if he can put that Blue episode back up in public for people to have a listen to, because I just thought that was amazing listening. If you want entertaining Supercoach commentary, that podcast was it.
Jump on. And you mentioned we might not have a show next week. What's doing?
I've got family visiting from Queensland, so fucking Queenslanders spoiling shit. So we'll see how we go closer to the day. I'll see what that family visiting, whether they'll be out or not, whether I can still do the show. But if they're hanging about, got to be a host, mate.
That's all right, mate. You probably earned a week off, so I wouldn't stress too much. You're the only bloody constant in this place. It's easy for Joshy to have a few weeks off and myself, but I think the boys will let you off. But cheers for the heads up. We'll see what happens.
But next show back, I'll try and have some logos done up, and we'll do a little bit of we'll put a vote up or a poll because for some reason the logo that I painstakingly crafted with my bare hands
fucking stop it.
isn't good enough.
Chuck the loose potty back up. So there you go, people. Go and make sure you go and jump on and check that out, because that's well worth the listen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, may the Supercoach gods be kind, Bogues. With whatever trades you're not making, captaincy choices, all that sort of stuff. And
what trades are you making this week?
I'm done with Paulo. So Paulo's gone, and I'm going to swap IPAP into the front row and probably bring in Maddo. And I think I'm going to go Gutho to Teddy. Fuck it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might, with another injury setback, I'm just going to take the loss on Pappy and get rid of him. I've got plenty of cash in the bank, so I'll probably bring back in Teddy and see how we go. Hopefully I'll have enough cash on the other side of Origin to bring Pappy back in.
Sounds good, Bogues. And the captaincy options, probably plenty of people looking at those Chooks boys against Brisbane. Panthers boys probably pretty safe with Cleary.
Well, can he back it up, mate? Can he back it up? Will he go from 220 to 20?
he is the world record holder now, but it is a week that maybe this is where you find your pod captain. Maybe Tommy Turbo against Parra will be interesting, but
Nico Hines against the Raiders.
Nico Hines for captaincy as well is an interesting option too, but Bogues for sure. Anyway, boys and girls, thanks for joining us as always. Chat absolutely lit. Love having you. Thanks for hanging in with us for nearly a couple of hours now, and we may see you next week.
We might not. Keep an eye on the Twitter, keep an eye on the Facebook. We'll keep you informed.
Thanks, Bogan, as always. And we'll see you when we're looking at
you. Go and rub some fucking vapor rub on that kid or something, mate.
Jeez, throw it out in the bin. Catches.